Hello, it's been a long time. Apologies for the length of time it's taken me to do another YouTube video. In my last video, I was about to have a baby, so it's just been the fact that life's gotten in the way a little bit. I've got a 10-month-old baby now, so I had a little boy, and so now I've got 3 children, and things have just been absolutely hectic, to the point where I'm just doing this video now whilst my little girl's asleep. I've not planned it. I thought I'll just do it, otherwise I'll never get around to doing it, so bear with me guys. It might be a little bit here, there and everywhere. I've sadly no longer got my allotment because I've had to move. I moved away and sadly gave my allotment up, which was really sad. We put a lot of work and effort into it, and a lot of love went into it, but what can I say? Life happened and we've moved on. We've no longer got an allotment at all, but my plan is to take a section of my garden and do some growing here whilst I'm able. But what I did want to do this video on was about something which I haven't really spoke about to many people, to be honest, because can you even hear me? Because I can't hear myself think at the minute. Yeah, I don't really talk too much about my private life to people, or my beliefs or things like that, because I think a lot of people just think I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and a lot of what I say is it's just me being me. But I don't care. I thought today's the day where I come out and I tell people that I'm Muslim. I wanted to do a video about why I become Muslim, and I don't really know where to start, to be honest. I've been on a bit of a spiritual journey, to say the least, for probably about 5 years, maybe even more, but it's become more apparent to me probably around the time of COVID, when it was all just weird and it felt like, you know, the end times. I know it's a bit extreme in saying that, or is it? But it just, for me, it just felt like, what on earth's going on? Why I become Muslim? Well, it's a big question really, and a few people who do know have asked me, and I've not been able to give them really straightforward answer, because it's just, I don't know how to put it really. Life's happened to cause this change in me. My first sort of learning experience about Islam was when I was at school, and my first couple of years in school, we didn't know anything, we didn't learn anything about Islam. It was all Christianity based, and sort of like the Hinduism and Sikhism, Judaism kind of religions that I remember. I don't ever remember doing about Islam till I got into about year 9, and we had a new teacher that came to our school, and he was just amazing, and his teaching was so fun and engaging. And at that point I remember being fascinated with Islam, and my fascination kind of stuck since then. I never kind of pursued Islam in any way other than kind of the learning that I kind of undertook at school at that time. So fast forward to kind of like the last 5 years, like I mentioned, it was during that time, during COVID and stuff, it was all a bit weird, and I felt myself going down lots of rabbit holes, thinking that what's going on in the world right now, it's weird. It's just, there's got to be some explanation for this, and I think the only explanation that I thought at the time was that there's some kind of evil going on. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. I didn't one bit feel scared, as in scared that I was going to get a disease of some kind. I didn't feel like, you know, I thought something was really weird, something was odd. What I was sort of seeing on the TV did not match up with what was going on outside. And I've always been a little bit cynical of the higher powers, should we say. So yeah, I ended up looking into loads of like religious stuff. I remember not going to sleep till early hours of the morning. I was just going through some kind of dark night of the soul, or something was going on. I bought a Bible, I was looking into Judaism, I suppose Islam's always been at the back of my mind, and I think Islam's always been the one that I've been drawn to, but the religion that I was always most reluctant to get involved in, I guess. And I think that was because, although I knew a little bit about it, it was always a fact of, I always felt like, you know, women might are oppressed, or if I was to become Muslim, would I have to, would I be forced to dress in a certain way? Would I not be able to go out partying anymore? Would I not be able to date people? I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things, and my mindset at the time was that I didn't want to be trapped. I wanted to pursue spirituality, but in a way that was unrestricted. Even though I knew that there was a lot of truth in Islam, because I'd read part of the Quran probably 10 years before, you know, but sometimes the truth scares you. I honestly thought I was losing my mind. I was drinking a lot, I was working from home, I was on my own with my son. I felt really isolated, and I think that was my escape, knowing that what was going on was wrong, but there's got to be some truth and some kind of explanation. And what I was kind of getting towards was like end times prophecies and things like that, and I didn't like it. It scared me a bit. So that was that aside. I ended up going to Tanzania in 2021 because my son needed an operation and he couldn't get one on the NHS because he was told that it could take 2 years. Cut a long story short, Tanzania, I didn't realise, was 50% Christian, 50% Muslim country. It was just amazing, like seeing the harmony between the Christian and Muslims. It was like two major religions living side by side with absolute no problem. And what struck me when we first arrived there, we stayed in an apartment tower block, probably on like the 12th floor or something, was we were right next to a mosque, and we heard the adhan 5 times a day, but the first one, the morning prayer, was just like so loud. I remember we were overlooking like a town called Apanga, and beneath us there must have been like a small holding little farm there, because there was loads of ducks and chickens and goats and stuff. And when the adhan came, all the animals like started crowing. It was weird. It was like they were all in tune with the adhan, and all the cockerels and stuff were crowing. And then it was obviously sunrise, and it was just amazing. And I remember thinking, like, it hit me hard. So that out of the way, I ended up in some not so nice situations when I was out there. I got robbed. I got like money took off me twice, a lot of money. I ended up nearly killed in a car accident, which was awful. And I ended up going to like quite a remote part of the country, which I foolishly had no cash. I ran out of cash. I had no reception on my phone. I was miles away from an airport or any reliable or safe mode of transport. I couldn't get out of the village there was no way of getting out with a car, so I had to get out on a motorcycle with my son. We were sort of up the creek without a paddle, literally, and thank goodness we eventually ended up in a situation where I could get out. I could fly back to the main city. But when all these incidents kept happening, I kept thinking, I've been lucky, I've been very lucky. Although, yeah, I was robbed of money, I managed to get some money back. I managed to survive an incident which could have killed me. I managed to get out of a remote village where a lot of people didn't speak English. They'd never seen foreigners, and me and my son were vulnerable. It was scary, and I thought, I am very lucky to still be here, my son, my son's not long had an operation. How has this happened? How have I been so lucky? I saw people dead on the side of the road in Tanzania because it's quite unsafe. Sometimes the roads, the way people drive, and the cars are not maintained, the speeding. how are we still alive? Made me question, there must have been something looking out for me then. This isn't just by chance that I'm still here. I've always had a bit of fear of death. I've always thought, where we're going after this, there can't just be all that there is to it. But that time, I was on my own. I was vulnerable in a foreign country, and I thought, not everyone would have survived this. Not everyone would have got through this. When I came home from there, it was like I needed to get out of that situation. Something's saved me from that situation. Although when we did go, my son had his operation and that potentially saved his life. But for me, it was like a big wake-up call. So that was that. But prior to that, in my job as a mental health nurse, I've always questioned. I've always questioned why it is that people, when they're not well mentally, when not all people, but a lot of people in my experience, when they're not well, whether they've been religious in the previous time in their life, or whether when they've been unwell, it's just become more apparent that, you know, when you're not feeling well and you're feeling vulnerable, you might turn to God, or you might have an experience like a near-death one, or where you felt out of control and you're thinking, something helped me. I've come across a lot of people who talk about God and religion and spirituality during my career, and I don't think it's by coincidence, really. A lot of time when I've encountered people with like a psychosis or like a psychotic illness, as they call it, people have like said, I've seen God, or I am God, or I've talked to God, or I have seen the devil. And it's always baffled me, and I've always sort of wondered why that is. Because I know, like, when people take certain drugs and stuff, they can become paranoid, or it can create fear in people, or, you know, there's loads of variables as to why that happens, but it just becomes like people are all of a sudden have this consciousness of good or evil, or they feel like they've been possessed by the devil. Like, I've never actually had an answer other than like a person's delusional. That's the only explanation that's ever come to my knowledge. I ended up speaking to a consultant psychiatrist who was a lecturer, and he said a psychiatric assessment should never be done without a spiritual assessment as well. And I thought, yes, like, this is what I'm kind of thinking. Like, how can we assess people with mental illness, especially when they're talking about religion? You know, why, when people talk about having like thoughts of talking to God or revelations or you name it, why is it always deemed like delusional? Why could there be some truth in it? I mean, I don't know. But that always kind of was at the back of my mind. When I reflect back on that, I don't know whether part of that was because of my own soul searching journey, whether it resonated with me because, I don't know, maybe because I was seeking God out as well. It just made me, I don't know, subconsciously think about my own journey into faith. And I don't know whether it's just a universal thing that we all inherently have, where we think about God. I don't know if that's true, whether you're atheist or not. We all must think about it at some point, like the point of life, something which I've always thought, like, why are we here? And seeing nature at work and stuff, I used to sit and just watch and think, this is not by chance. I'm planting these little tiny seeds and I'm ending up with sweet corn that are taller than me, and I'm seeing the birds at work, I'm seeing everything in harmony. How is this possible? I suppose what pushed me into it was when I had my kids. I ended up thinking I was never going to have children, and, you know, this world's not a great place to live in, why would I want children? And thinking quite selfishly about the prospect of having kids and how it would change my life. But having kids has been just the making of me. I mean, I've gone from having a career and fairly nice things. I've never been rich or materialistic in that way, to being probably having not a lot now, but feeling the richest I've ever felt like in my life, having my children and the connection that I've got with them and the blessing that they've brought into my life. Breastfeeding them and nurturing them has just been like, wow, this is just so powerful. Like, I'm a woman and I'm given this gift of having a baby, being able to feed my child and give life to them. It's childbirth and the lot. It's just been absolutely the most amazing experience of my life. In the Quran, when I've read passages and stuff, the mother, the woman, is highly regarded. All the things that I thought were negative against women is actually the total opposite. And I think I maybe was living at a time when before I had kids, I didn't appreciate that. I thought like dressing in a certain way was a bit oppressive, or, you know, when I've heard about like obeying your husband and that. And I think I've always been quite independent and had my own mind, very willing and able to do my own thing without a fella. But I think, without wanting to slag anyone off, I don't think I've been with men that have been worthy of me obeying them. I've not come across a man, or any man in fact, personally, that have been worthy of my obeying, because sadly none of them have demonstrated that character. But I want to just say that on the opposite side of that, I maybe wouldn't have become Muslim had it if not been for my ex-partner. Although he was Muslim and not the best example of a Muslim, there isn't a perfect person, I know that. But in spite of that, I took my Shahada nearly, a year and a half ago now. And yeah, he was probably what got me to do it. I wasn't under his control or persuasion at the time. We talked about it and I felt like that was the time. I'd contemplated it for a long time, and just didn't think it was for me. And I did it, and alhamdulillah, it's been a blessing in spite of everything that's happened between me and him. And I feel like the truths hit me like a ton of bricks from what I've been learning, from what I've read. What can I say? I'd say that during that whole COVID period, I was part of the truth movement, if you like. I've been to like protests in London and I was very anti-establishment. And, you know, but when I think about like the truth is in that book, the Quran. Islam's got a very bad press. It's always been thought of as some kind of cult, or it's like terrorist related, or women are oppressed. It's immigrants and all the Muslims are totally disrespecting British culture. When I just think, when I look back even at my own life as a young woman, as a mother, as somebody, just an ordinary citizen, I think how I've lived my life, and it's only because that's all I've known. Not being great, it's not been great. I mean, I've not hurt anybody, I've not been in trouble with the police, but I've had no respect for myself. And I can see now, having read the Quran and having learnt a bit about it, I'm not that well versed in it, but just I read it and I think, yeah, totally resonates with me. That verse, yeah, totally. If that was applied to today's society, there wouldn't be any problem. It's all there for the makings of a perfect, beautiful, harmonious society. It talks about charity, helping your neighbours, helping those less fortunate, not being arrogant, being humble, women dressing in a certain way, not to oppress them, but to preserve their modesty, to not let men be the judge of women. You know, I've always had confidence issues, and probably up until my late 20s, early 30s, and I didn't really care then, but as a young woman, I always kind of wanted to fit in. And it was like the stage where you into boys and all that, and like most young girls, we have issues with self-esteem and stuff, and I can totally see how covering yourself up and not giving people full view of your body solves that problem. That when you meet somebody, if and when you do marry or be introduced to a prospective partner, they're not just judging you on how you look. They're actually looking at you as a person and what you've got to offer them and how faithful you are to God, and all these characteristics which is a young female without that, men are just going to totally look at you for what's on the outside. And I look at that now and I think, I wish I'd known that. I wish I'd grown up to know that, to have that level of self-respect, and to know that if I was going to meet somebody, my dad would have been involved potentially. My brothers would have been there to make sure that this man wasn't going to take advantage of me or use me. There's loads of wisdom in the Quran. I've read bits, surahs, so chapters here and there, and I heard that when you read the Quran again, you'll read it and it'll bring something else. It'll have a different not a different meaning, but what am I trying to say? The way I can explain it is if when you'll read a passage and it'll be relevant in that moment in time, if that makes sense. Like, for example, when I read parts of it 10 years ago, before I had children and my life was different, didn't have the same kind of impact that it does now. Or like when things are going on in the world, it relates to a lot of things. And I think if only the truth movement saw this and saw the truth, because I'm just seeing a lot of truthers now turning into Tommy Robinson lovers and racists and bigots, and I think, how can you be a truther, so-called truther, when this is not the truth? When those people coming in off boats, you're going to have good and bad characters, of course. We don't know who a lot of these people are, but they're just victim to this as well. They're just as much victim to this madness as what we are, though in the UK we've got it quite a lot easier than a lot of people have. We're just people. We're all the same. We're all God's creation. For whatever reason, we're all being led to believe that the innocent are the ones who are to be feared, and the ones in power, the ones who are creating all these problems in the world, are the ones to be worshipped. And I can see it now, and I'm happy for myself that I've come to this realisation of the truth. And I just want to kind of say that Islam isn't to be feared. In fact, it's the opposite. And I just feel like if everyone were to, I don't know, maybe get rid of their own ego a little bit, humble themselves, and look around them, take a look at people, get to know Muslims if you have sort of been interested. Go to a mosque. It's a beautiful month. It's coming towards the end of Ramadan now. Then do it, because you'll come to find that those women with veils on are not scary. I'm not quite there with hijab yet, although I do dress quite modestly. I'd love to wear it, but I suppose it's just fear of being judged in the opposite sense. I do wear a head covering sometimes, and for me it's just a case of having the confidence, and I guess which is why I'm saying it now. I'm Muslim and I want to be Muslim, and I love the religion and I love everything about it. But for me it's a journey, and you're not expected to, it's all kind of a process. I think I've fasted now for, let's have a look at the date. Oh, it's day 29. And it's been amazing, to say the least. So fasting on my own's been quite difficult, but it's been amazing in terms of developing my connection to God. To be hungry and thirsty does remind you of all the blessings that you would have if you weren't doing this, if you were just eating normally, you take a lot for granted. You know, being thirsty and being hungry is hard. And I just think of all those people in the world suffering. It's heartbreaking. And it just puts into perspective life, like how lucky, how unfair it is, but how beautiful it is at the same time. And all them people in Palestine being murdered, it's just beyond comprehension how this is allowed to happen. But at the same time, those people there are the strongest people in the world. Their faith in God is just something else. I want to get to that point. I want to be like that. I want to be thankful every day for what I've got, for the blessings that I have. I want to have that faith. I want to have that connection. I don't want to live in this life that's full of materialism, full of distractions, full of worries about the things that don't matter. You know, I am quite a humble person. I'm quite a simple person, but really, I look back and I think I've grown up knowing what I've known, not knowing any different until now, and I love it. I love where this is taking me, and I just hope, inshallah, that I can continue and find a community where I am, where I can get to know and feel part of something, because there is a sisterhood out there somewhere for me, and I know it's not too far away. But yeah, alhamdulillah, what can I say? It's been a tough few years. More recently, it's been very tough having my little boy, giving birth on my own, moving, relationship breakdown, been very stressful, but it's all part of God's plan. And I see it, and I'm reading about it daily. I'm reading about the blessings. I'm reading about, you know, all the things that happen to people, the good and the bad. I know more that they can handle, and I feel like I'm blessed. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I've had some health scares, you know, I'm still here, going strong. So, just, yeah, this is where it's led me. I did want like I said, I did want a religion that wasn't going to be as restrictive, but I realised that having a routine, praying, you know, being in remembrance of God regularly is a good thing. Reminding me why I'm here, reminding me my purpose in life, reminding me of all the gifts that I've been given. There's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of passages in the Quran that are so relevant to today, and I'm seeing it play out, and it's unquestionable, or even if it is questionable, there's always an answer. So I'd say to anybody who's watching this video thinking she doesn't know what she's talking about, or another Muslim, then rather than live in ignorance, go and find out for yourself and seek the truth, because this is the truth. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, came with a message, and that message is what's gonna save us all. It's what's gonna save us all and keep humanity going, because as far as I'm concerned, what I'm seeing right now and the evil that's being played out, what hope is there for people? I look at life through a completely different lens now, and I couldn't be happier. So I just want to say to all the brothers and sisters out there, Eid Mubarak. I hope you've had I hope Ramadan's been kind to you this time around. Until the next one, I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, Eid Mubarak, and blessings to everybody watching. Thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you later.